Huh. I wonder if these can be green screened. Do you ever feel like when you paint deeper, darker skin tones, they just don't turn out right? Like the way you paint lighter skin just doesn't translate quite as well to deep, dark skin tones? Hey, there's no shame in it. I know there's not enough tutorials out there that teach us how to paint beautiful, rich, dark skin. We're gonna fix that today. Hi, I'm Srish and I am a professional artist, and I specialize in a vast diversity of characters. And while I love that artists these days are very much embracing a much more diverse, nuanced character repertoire, I feel like that diversity is just not proportional when it comes to art tutorials. So in today's video, I kind of want to take a step towards a little more diversity by showing you guys how I paint these beautiful, deep, rich skin tones on my darker skinned characters. It's going to be 3 simple steps. Well, 4, depending on how far you want to go. You know, I like to go all the way. And today we're not going to use very many digital filters or use any shortcuts. Today we're actually going to put in the work and learn to paint skin from the ground up. This is an important skill for you to have a well-rounded art skill when it comes to painting skin. And you guys, I really want you to put the time in and learn how to paint beautiful dark skin tones for your diverse POC characters. Your characters very much deserve this. Of course, if you enjoyed this video and learned something today, let me know by giving me a big thumbs up. Comment below any tips that you might have on how we can all paint a lot more vibrant, alive looking skin. And of course, subscribe to my channel for even more amazing art tutorials. And now without much further ado, here are 3, maybe 4 tips on how you can paint beautiful, deep, rich, dark skin. For this video, this is the painting that I'm working on. It is the next installment for my Zodiac expansion series named TBC. If you're new here, I started a series of painting about 4 years ago, looking at the dark and light aspects of all 12 Zodiac signs. And then this year, I decided to expand it by going into each of the elements. Today, we are looking at the light aspects of the earth element, which is all about warmth, abundance, nurturing, and the earth's bounty. So I really want our lovely lady here to be all vibrant and happy, and I really want her skin to reflect that as well. The very first step I'm going to get into is creating a very detailed color palette. So as you can see, I have a couple of references of these models who have variations on the approximate skin tone that I'm looking for. I'm making this palette the same way I do a palette for style studies, in that I zoom into a color on my Pure Ref window and then try to match the color on my canvas underneath until it creates a nearly seamless tone. You probably make palettes all the time, but the trick here is to make as detailed a palette as you can. You can see me dart around across the references because one of the models had a warmer undertone than the other. That's fantastic for us today because the goal here is to create a palette of as many different tones as possible. However, you'll also see me take down different tones for highlights, midtones, shadows, and specular highlights. What I noticed was that because so much of the midtone and highlight areas were deeply red tinted, a lot of the shadows, which would appear complementary toned, tended to pull a little green. The same way a purely orange undertone in the highlights would cause shadows to look blue, or a pink undertone might cause shadows to look yellowy. It's color theory, but it's important to make note of this now because we're going to use all of this data when it comes to actually painting the skin. Now, this might seem extremely time consuming just to make a color palette to pick from. Why wouldn't you just pick a base midtone, a shadow tone, and a highlight and call it that? Well, my friend, that is exactly why your skin tones end up looking dead and flat. The big issue with painting deeper skin is that a lot of the light that hits it is absorbed, and so you have a more nuanced variety of colors that bounce off the skin that might look similar to each other, but there's slight variation of hue, value, and saturation across so many little areas that create that sense of depth and life. The process of creating a detailed palette might seem time-consuming right now, but what we're essentially doing is making ourselves a convenient little strip of colors to pick from, so we don't have to constantly wonder about which color to put down next while in the middle of rendering later. Seriously, make yourself a detailed palette. It will do most of the work for you from this point forward. Now let's take this a step further and lay ourselves a solid foundation by sort of up-leveling our flats. As you can tell, I pretty much just grabbed a mid-tone neutral brown to block the skin in. I always block each element on its own layer because it allows me to lock transparency and paint inside the lines, saves you a bunch of time cleaning up later. However, this is where we start to take it a step further. While still using my hard-edged ink brush, I started to first place down a warm highlight tone. I want most of the light hitting her from the top left of the canvas, so I grabbed that orangey color and created a flat shape around her forehead, eyelid, nose, and cheek on that half of her face. Now, with the jaw, I could bring that same color down, but it would be too flat because the jaw is starting to sort of round away from the light source and is usually a cooler tone than the apple of the cheek. So I flattened in a slightly cooler color there. Then I reduced the brush size and grabbed a red shadowy tone and painted in the areas where the skin would be shadowy but not completely occluded, meaning that subsurface scattering would make those places glow nice and warm. One of my favorite details to add to darker skin is this cool tone desaturated highlight. It stands out so starkly against the midtones around it and really gives us this beautiful shine. For the shadow side, I grabbed a deeper midtone that's still fairly warm, but not quite as super orange as the light half of her face. And then with an even smaller brush, I started to place even smaller areas of flat colors. Just like with creating a detailed color palette, our goal here is to introduce as much color variation as possible as early in the process as possible. I don't know about you, but personally, my energy level is the highest when I first start painting. It's when my brain is the most alert, so I prefer to get all the active thinking done as soon as possible. And putting all this color variation in now, when my brain is at its freshest, ensures that later, when I get a bit tired, I'm not cutting corners with the little hue shifts and such. I did pretty much the same with her arms and belly. Now, initially I'd planned to give her translucent sleeves, but later decided it was too distracting. We want her beautiful smile to be the primary focal point, so everything that takes away from it has got to go. But the beauty of doing all these color variations in the base of her skin is that later, when we start to render it properly and make it look like actual skin, we don't even really need that palette that we created earlier. We have a variety of colors to pick from, meaning that at no point will the skin end up looking flat or boring. This is my favorite type of structure while doing anything, you guys. When we build a solid foundation, it allows us to kind of just relax and enjoy the rest of the process. Of course, I'm a little extra, so I also did this whole thing for her clothing as well as for the fruits and the flower around her. Look, I just optimized the process first thing Monday morning because I've been working out a lot and I know I'm going to be exhausted by Wednesday. We do what we gotta do. Finally, we render. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, the colors are all in place. Let's just grab a blend brush and smudge them together. No, naughty. We never do that. You want to paint well, you got to do the legwork. We're going to zoom in now, grab a very small chalk brush and start to color pick and blend by hand. Remember, our goal for this video is depth and color variation, so we're constantly going to switch between the brush and eyedropper, picking up a color and putting it down and then doing it again. Now, I'm usually a very fast painter. I've managed to get down entire super detailed illustrations to under about 12 hours of paint time, spread across several days of course, but that's pretty quick. But when I want something to look this alive and vibrant, I take my time. So this step for the face alone took me an hour and a half for the face alone. That doesn't seem like a lot, but for how quickly I usually paint, that's a massive amount of time. But I'm telling you now, it is so worth it, because the amount of life that this back and forth painting process gives to your character, oh, it is incredible. If you've been on the channel for some time, you know that a little while ago I did a video about brush economy, and that process was all about using as few brush marks as possible to indicate form and texture, kind of like Impressionism. Today, we're doing the exact opposite, and when you compare that finished product from that video to this face, you'll see just how different the look and feel is. Not that this look is better than that one, but that face didn't have so much color variation or intricate detail as this one is about to. For this entire process, I pretty much only used the chalk brush from my own brush kit, which you can grab up here by the way, over 60 brushes that I made from scratch just for $3. You can get it for Krita and Photoshop. This is my favorite brush to render with ever. There's just enough texture and hardness there to avoid everything looking too smooth and airbrushy, but it's not so harsh that it leaves very dramatic edges. For this character, I wasn't going for a super youthful, flawless airbrush skin look at all. I wanted her to look believable, like a middle-aged, salt-of-the-earth type lady. I wanted her to look like she works the land herself, and all that bounty that surrounds her isn't just stuff that's magically appeared. She's put in all that labor to make it happen. It's kind of the perfect energy for this painting process, hey? So I wanted those fine lines and wrinkles. I wanted that texture. I wanted the stretch marks. I wanted that big, wide, gap-toothed smile that doesn't look like she spent millions on dental implants. It's all well and good to paint perfectly aesthetic, standard, pretty characters. I'm never gonna tell you not to. Hell, some of my characters fit that standard as well. But to me, it kind of sucks that we're so obsessed with a certain cutesy, pretty look that everyone's art is sort of starting to look identical, at least on social media. To me, art is about telling stories, and stories with a million iterations of identical looking characters can get, well, dry. Painting a much more diverse cast of characters, telling a wider variety of stories, that's where the fun lies for me. That's not to say that style isn't important, but I think there's a big difference between stylistic choice and putting yourself in a little box as an artist. Anyway, enough rambling, back to the painting. When I flipped the canvas, I felt like the eye on the shadow side of her face was a little too close to the center, so I moved it out a little bit. Best way to do that, by the way, is to select the eye, copy it to a new layer, move that new layer, and then paint around the edges. That way there's no gaps. If you miss a little bit, the layer underneath has opacity. Again, I went very greeny and desaturated for that jaw area because most of it is in shadow, but a tiny bit of that red adds just a little more variation down around the mouth and the smile lines. I went ahead and painted the arms and belly the same way. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch that as well, don't worry, but it's literally the same process. Small brush, color pick, paint, repeat. Obviously, I went ahead and rendered the rest of the painting, so this is about 5 painting hours later. I added a sleeping bunny just to show how nurturing her energy is, that even an animal as skittish as a bunny rabbit feels safe enough to just flop over and have a little nap. Now, if you like your piece at this point, you can leave it as is. She's gorgeous already, but I'm the type to never know when to stop, so I ended up taking it just a little further. So here's some optional extra steps that might really punch up the skin for you. One thing I always like to do is a levels, color balance, and hue sat adjust. So when we're so zoomed in and painting the skin, sometimes we might miss out on how that value, contrast and color balance plays into the rest of the painting. So I quickly went ahead and increased the contrast and made her skin a little more red tinted to better emphasize that red-green color contrast, especially since that melon next to her is so vividly green. Finally, I also grabbed a shadow skin tone and gave her some freckles because I freaking love a freckled face. She's been working in the sun, so it makes sense. And I just love a freckled face. That's pretty much it for the skin, you guys. So just to recap, we created a super detailed color palette, used that to create some super detailed flat tones. Then we grabbed a small radius chalk brush and went around color picking and painting the form of the face. Again, making sure we preserve that color variation. And then finally, we did a couple of lighting and color adjustments and added some final skin details. And here she is, the happiest, most alive looking character I've ever painted. Now, is this something you can just do once and pretty much nail it overnight? Probably not. Trust me, I've spent years just painting dull, flat, lifeless looking dark skin, but I promise you, when you do this over and over again, once you get a lot of practice in, you'll be painting beautiful, vibrant, deep, rich skin tones in no time at all. So I truly hope this tutorial has helped, and if there are other tips you have for painting beautiful dark skin, then comment below and let me know because I'm always looking to expand this specific skill. Of course, if you enjoyed this video and learned something today, let me know by giving it a big thumbs up, and if you have the option to, also hype this video so that it reaches a lot more folks out there so we can spread the message of love and diversity across our art, you know. Subscribing to my channel is a great way to support what I do and also to make sure that you're up to date with everything that goes on this channel. And if you'd like to also support me in other ways, you can do it by grabbing my brush kit off of my Patreon shop. Now, if you want my brush kit and all the other rewards, such as all my speed paints from start to finish, complete access to all of my art before anyone else sees it, the step-by-step PDFs, prints of my work every few months, and also the legendary Art and Chill series, which is my Patreon exclusive real-time paint-along type art tutorials. You can check it all out at the link up here. Lately, we've been diving into deep details about how humans change across several body types, different shapes and sizes, which is another really important skill for you to have so you can paint a lot more diversity in your characters. Plus, there's a lot of videos on there about how you can paint like fantasy skin tones, different hair textures, a whole bunch of stuff, shape language, composition, all of that good stuff. There are over 70, well, I think over 80 tutorials on there now, which is about half an hour to an hour long each. I've been putting in the work, you guys. So make sure you check it out. Again, link is up here in the cards and in the video description. Check it out, support your girl. It means the whole world to me. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you will definitely enjoy this other one that I did a little while ago about a color palette that completely changed how I viewed painting skin. It will truly help you guys see skin in a very different way. The video will pop up here in the outro in just a second. Make sure you check it out. But that's pretty much it for today. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I truly hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Check out that other video down here and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye!